Tourists from India coming to Singapore now form the third largest group, overtaking Australia. These are stats for the first 5 months of this year. There were more than 530,000 visitors from India, a 5% on-year growth. Tourists from mainland China and Indonesia remain the top two groups. Overall, there were 7.1 million visitor arrivals, a 2% increase compared to the first 5 months of 2024. Mohammed Bahajjaj looks at how attractions in Singapore have been responding to the growth in visitors from India.
Snow City, Singapore has seen a 10% growth in visitors from India compared to last year. To facilitate communication, it has since increased its staff by half to cater to this group and doubled its in-house activities and attractions over the past year. As part of the $1 million revamp here in Snow City, Singapore, they've installed snowfall machines to simulate winter even better throughout the entire year. This is to provide an enhanced and immersive experience for visitors, including tourists from India, especially those who haven't experienced the season.
It's different if you come to a tropical country and then to experience snow. That's a different experience, and it's been quite some time since my son has experienced snow. So there's a good opportunity for him to also experience snow.
What was your experience in Snow City?
It was great. I liked it. There was an ice slide made completely out of ice, and there was like a tire kind of slide which you had to slide on a ramp in the snow. It was great.
We hope that with the flexi in the visa, that will give more tourists from India to arrive. Yeah, we hope that is going to happen and there won't be any changes as of now. Tourists from India can easily get their visa from the embassy.
Gardens by the Bay is taking advantage of what appeals to rising crowds from India. It notes their strong interest in nature-based attractions and have gone on to refresh its floral displays constantly.
The other thing that we're also trying to do is to then work with the trade partners, both locally and in market, to help curate some packages that are relevant for them. This includes not only packages that are offered to the leisure tourists, but also those that are offered to the MICE tourists.
As for the Singapore flyer, it says the number of customers from India is now more than those from China, which is usually its highest. It has created customized offerings to the India crowd through different food and amenities.
Just this year, Singapore Tourism Board is organizing actually 2 trade shows. Typically, you only organize once a year. And we're talking about at least each trade show would be about 3 cities. So we travel to like 3 cities. And so this year we're talking about 6 cities in all.
She adds that the next roadshow is in July.
And for some analysis on Singapore's tourism trends, we are joined by Associate Professor Sin Hang Lu. She is the Professor's Chair at the Singapore University of Social Sciences. Professor Sin, thank you for joining us. Now, 1.4 million visitors to Singapore last month. That is an 8% on-year growth. What are some of the pull factors behind this trend?
Well, I guess a large part of it is a continued recovery from post-COVID times. So it's not something really out of the ordinary. It is probably on par, on track to going back to pre-COVID numbers.
So are we on track to surpass perhaps pre-COVID numbers then?
If you look at 2019 numbers, we are still a little bit short for the first 5 months. So I would say even if we're not 2019 numbers, we're probably at 2018 numbers. But one thing important to note, though, is that the tourism receipts actually has already surpassed 2019 numbers as of 2024. Yeah.
Are we seeing any shifts in how tourists experience Singapore? Like, how do they spend their money differently, or are they seeking different sorts of experiences?
So I think that globally, the kind of tourism experience or how people do tourism have changed quite profoundly. And this is being reflected in the Singaporean visitors. Unlike the past where, Singapore as an attraction or destination is pretty static, where, you have a few attractions, you go to Sentosa, you go to zoo, then you don't come back again, right? So now what most tourists are looking for are experiences, and how Singapore Tourism Board has remarketed Singapore is a lot towards the repeat visitors. So things like food, we do a lot of food tourism. So if you're craving like laksa or your bak kut teh or something, of course you've got to come back to Singapore every once in a while. Every few months you're thinking about coming back. A lot of the other sort of experiences that we have really gone into will also be events in the event spaces. Music concerts, I think everyone knows by now, Taylor Swift, Jackie Chong, Lady Gaga, you name it, they're all performing in Singapore. That also attracts a lot of repeat visitors. We have sporting events now. Again, sporting events, F1 being the most well-known, popular one. But then we have everything else now. We have swimming, we have the World Aquatic Games coming up. You can watch badminton, you can come here and run for a marathon, all sorts of these sort of events together with industry and academic conferences. These sort of tourists care less about the destination itself. They will just go wherever the event is held. So we are really attracting sort of multiple strands of groups of tourists into Singapore now. So I guess that really helps us in the recovery after COVID in terms of numbers of visitors.
I see. Now, strategy-wise, SDB has been actively employing pop culture and social media personalities to promote Singapore. How is this strategy shaping what visitors expect from Singapore?
So I think that is really a phenomenally good strategy because it creates a more nuanced way of experiencing the city. It's influencers, TikTok influencers, celebrities, social media stars. They actually come with their own creativity. So there's no one way to experience Singapore anymore. Some people will find the particular spot that a particular influencer has gone to. It creates viral moments that people replicate. So the city becomes very layered as an experience where, different people can do different things with it. And I would really say things like, for example, Lady Gaga went to Maxwell Market, right? So if you were a fan, then perhaps you will want to go to Maxwell Market. And then you go to the same table that she was at. You repeat what she did. Obviously, she's not going to be there. But in some ways, a fan would feel that you have experienced a shared space with a fan. So these things then make Singapore an experience as a city and not just a singular attraction.
Now, Singapore has a target of $50 billion in tourism receipts by 2040. That's a big goal. Now, in your opinion, what would be Singapore's strategy for the next few years?
So I think 50 billion, if you look at 2024 numbers, we had about 29 billion in tourism receipts last year. So 50 billion, granted 2040 is 15 years later. So it's quite a long way, right? But it is almost a doubling of our current tourism receipts. I think what is important here then is that Singapore residents are probably not going to be really happy if we have a doubling of visitor arrival numbers. We are already at about 16, 17 million right now a year. So what can be done in Singapore is to really push towards a lengthening of tourist stays. So currently, we have always hovered at about tourists staying an average of 3.5 days. So potentially, if you just add 1 day extra, that actually drives up the tourism receipts by a lot without really feeling the impact of having more people in our country. So those are probably some ways which we can move forward. Of course, what we have mentioned just now, the event space, the social media marketing, having very targeted market strategies that beyond using TikTok, we can use Xiaohongshu, to market more specifically to particular targets. All these will always help as well. I think what would be interesting to watch out for in the tourism space moving forward is that next year, 2026, CAAS is actually going to begin charging the Sustainable Aviation Fuel Levy. So that drives out all the price tickets of flights out of Singapore. So how does that affect our tourism receipts? How does that affect our numbers? I think that would be something to watch out for. It is, in terms of sustainability, to be in line with our Singapore Green Plan. I think that is a really good move to start charging this levy. However, I guess on the balance of sustainability and growth, this is where we have to look at how to balance to ensure that receipts remain on an upward trajectory while we meet some of our sustainability goals.
Now, in your opinion, are there any areas or aspects of Singapore that could be perhaps under-tapped by tourism board as a way to attract tourists, like a potential tourist attraction in Singapore that's not focused on right now?
So I think a lot of that drive could potentially be a lot of our using digital technologies and gamification, which actually STB has already begun doing. But then looking at some of the sort of VR and AR or using AI in tourism that tech has really shifted the ground quite phenomenally in some of the other countries. For example, if you go to China, the museums have really very, very deep tech and immersive technologies to allow visitors to experience the space in a very radically different ways. So some of these will probably be introduced more and more in Singapore. And also, I guess, all along, Singapore has attracted our neighbours or, people who wanted to see how it is like to be in this peaceful, multiracial, religiously tolerant space, how we co-live together in this space. And I think that in a world that is uncertain and messy, all these are things which are even more valuable today. Yeah.
Perhaps a good showcase will be the National Day Parade, right? Which
yes,
in August.
For sure. Yeah.
Thank you so much for joining us and sharing our insights. That was Associate Professor Sin Hang Lu from Professor's Chair at the Singapore University of Social Sciences. Thank you.